Hey, that worked. All right, staff, can we get a roll call? There we go.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members. Roll call. Member Atkins-Staff.
Here.
Member Blunt. Member Bush.
Here.
Member Dixon.
Here.
Member Fox.
Here.
Member Grundy Gomez.
Present.
Member Idy.
Here.
Member Merritt.
Present.
Member Mitchell.
Present.
Member Nielsen.
Here.
Member Palmer. Chair Pollitt.
Present.
Vice Chair Seawright.
Present.
Oh, there I was. Member Turner Evans. Mr. Chairman, we do have quorum.
All right, thank you very much. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Say aye.
Any opposed? All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes? I'll remind you, these are the November 17 minutes, so you
Mr. Chair,
might.
so moved. Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
All right, do I get a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under communication for chair's report, I'm gonna remind everyone, please wear your mask. Keep your mask on at all times, and remember, you need to push the red light button in front of you in order to be heard when you respond. Is there a director's report?
Good evening, everyone. Sarah Vidal. So from now on and moving forward, we wanted to try to use the director's report to bring you all up to date on items that are moving forward, but we're not talking about them, in the meeting. So I'm going to try to just give you a few updates on things that are coming up so you can anticipate them. The first thing is our joint city-county meeting that we're required to do each year per our agreement with the county is coming up. So I wanted to kind of give you those dates, and then we can also send them in an email as well. But we still have to take an annual report forward for the tax increment financing that's left over. And so we'll be doing that until all the tax increment is gone and we just have the new funding. So we'll be going to the City Commission on March 4th, then GCRAB on March 16th. And it's kind of funky because typically we come before you first. But because of the way the dates work, and the City Commission actually takes a break during that time, this is the way it worked out. And then the joint city-county meeting will be March 29th. And so most of that will be just kind of going through the annual report. So I wanted to kind of get that on your radar ahead of time. Also, I wanted to mention that we're working on a draft purchase and sale agreement for Southern Charm. So if you remember way back when Omar Asalimo signed the lease, he had an option to purchase and he wants to move forward with that. So we've been working with him, and that will be coming forward to you all and to the City Commission maybe next month. Then Heritage Trail I wanted to mention because we have an RFP out right now for a consultant, and since it's live, we're kind of in that cone of silence, but I wanted to let you know that the award recommendation, if it moves forward, will be April 1st on that, and that will come back to you all as well. Heartwood, I wanted to mention really quickly, we were able to see the home that's built out there last Friday. It looks fantastic. We're super excited about that, and we'll be coming back next month to give you an update on the dates for the homebuyer information session, the sales day, and when we're going to kick off that sales day, which I believe will be in early April. And then just a quick update on the business improvement grant. We've had one application to date that's been approved. And then I think we have about 15 applications, different companies who have the application and are working on them. So we've had a really good response to rolling out that business improvement grant, and look forward to bringing those forward to you as well. So just a high level update, and hopefully this will kind of help you all kind of stay up to date of what's coming next, and just provide you a little bit more of a holistic update on what we have going on. So that's all I had, and if there are any questions, I'm available.
Any questions for our director?
Yes. I do.
All right.
I have one at home.
Oh, go ahead, let everyone go first.
Okay, thank you for the report. I just have a question. What are we, you mentioned Southern Charm, and you have the option to buy. And what was the price of that sale? Have you negotiated a price of what it will be sold for?
So the way the city, they call it disposes of property, is we get an appraisal, and then the buyer gets an appraisal, and then you kind of meet in between. In this case, Mr. Osalimo has decided to go with the city's appraised price. So he elected not to get his own appraisal. And I don't have that dollar amount, but I can follow up with that.
Could you please? Thank you.
Mr. Gomez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Vidal, I had a question for you from last meeting for an update. Did you, some of the programs that we were talking about, things we wanted to do as far as direction, do you have any updates that you can bring back to us from what some of us on the board during that time, even though we didn't have a quorum, as far as giving ideas of things we could bring back, whether that was between Caper and you? Do you have any updates on that?
No, I'm sorry. It's hard to hear. Those of you who are in the chamber, I can hear
Okay, how
people
about
on
now?
Zoom really well. So I think I understood your question, and it was the Economic Development Initiatives.
This is gonna be the challenge. Can you understand me better now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what I was asking is from last meeting, do you have any, even though we had our board meeting, we didn't have a quorum, but from some of the feedback that you got from us on the board as far as things we could bring back between the GCRI and through Caper, do you have any updates on that?
I don't. We are continuing to move forward on those programs, and I think we got good feedback from you all, but we also have a lot of feedback in the consolidated plan too. The priorities from the plan are really healthcare related, food related, or banking. And so, one thing we want to do is try to learn how to better incentivize those types of projects. And then also, we mentioned programs for small, local, diverse businesses, and part of that is tied to GTEC. So we basically are going back, and we'll be doing some work with more fleshed out ideas to present to you again, to make sure that we're on the right track and get your feedback. So I would imagine it would be April or May when we come back with that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Director.
You're welcome.
Do we have a staff report?
We do.
Thought we might.
Can you hear me?
Not very well.
Hold on.
No, I think you went mute. No?
No.
Let's go
No?
back to where- There you go. Oh, Try to get.
Yes?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, wonderful. Hi, everybody. I just have two quick housekeeping items. First, I just want to share that member Abraben has resigned from the board. We're sad to see him go, and we appreciate all the time that you all devote to the board. So member Abraben's seat will be posted in March, and that's a month-long cycle. So we should have a fresh face coming in May. And then I also wanted to look ahead to the April meeting. The March 16th meeting is on as scheduled in the City Hall auditorium. For the April date, we had a conflict. So we have an alternative date of April 12th. I just sent you a hold for your calendars. And then depending on what the agenda looks like, we'll either hold a virtual workshop on the actual date, which is April 20th, or we'll do a hybrid meeting in the chambers on April 12th. So we'll let you know as soon as we have the agenda and know which type of meeting we'll be holding. I just wanted to have you mark your calendars for that.
That's it.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. You have a question for staff?
Yeah, it's more of a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had, I guess, I mean, as long as we're reaching quorum, I guess it's fine, but I know that Mondays, like, there's a bunch of us it doesn't work for. And whenever I see the Monday emails come through, it makes me kind of sad, because I run a business, and I have this Tuesday locked in. So I don't know if there's a way that we could do other Tuesdays, or just put that out there.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a challenge because the commission chambers are pretty heavily used because it's the primary meeting space for all of the city meetings. And April 12th was pretty much the only, I believe it was the only date, other date in April. But I can double check with the clerk's office, and sometimes they have cancellations too. So we can look for alternate dates. Hope, maybe another board will cancel on a Tuesday, because that does happen.
Mr. Gomez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tricia, from my inquiry to you and Ms. Vidal, regarding an alternative meeting space, have there been any response from the city manager? Has anybody got an inquiry or request to that date? Because we never really heard back a definitive response outside of it just being here.
So it's the size of our board has posed a challenge in finding a space that accommodates all of the members, and also the capability of broadcasting and of health screening. So I have been looking into alternate spaces, but honestly, it's been kind of a challenge to find something that meets all of our needs.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is board elections. So we need to elect
So, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I received a question, and this is entirely up to yourself and the members, whether you want to do the election by ballot or voicing your vote. So it's entirely up to you. But you each have been provided a ballot.
Thank you. So everybody's got a ballot. I thought it might be best to find out if anybody's interested instead of just having your name put on it. I guess I would. So, Mr. Gomez.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. I see you.
Are all the seats, what's open? Everything, the chair and the vice chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You and I are the only two that are chair and vice chair.
That are elected.
That are on it.
Okay.
Are you interested in chair or vice chair again?
I don't think I will be able to be the chair, but I wouldn't mind sitting as vice chair again.
Okay, and Mr. Gomez says he's interested in chair. Anybody else? I mean, I'll do it again if that's what the board wants, but y'all want to do this?
Another question.
Oh, yes.
Armando is chair, if that's what.
Takes a nomination.
So, pardon?
That's the nomination for Armando, if that's how we're doing it.
So you got a nomination for Armando?
Yes.
All right, very good.
Did you say that you were interested again?
I'll do it again.
Okay, so can we just vote the paper ballot and be done with it?
Was that your intention?
It's your choice.
Yeah, I think we just vote the paper ballot, that's fine. Yes, chair and vice chair.
I'm sorry, I can't hardly hear. What's going on?
We're voting for chair and vice chair. We have to figure out how to do it when, you can vote from all right or no?
Can I vote, Tricia?
Just 1 second.
Yes, you can. Yes, you and Member Turner Evans can vote because you filled out the affidavit.
So do we just put our vote in the chat box, or what do we do?
There is no chat.
Oh, okay.
But you
Here you are.
you can send your vote electronically either to my cell phone or to my email address. Which
I can do that.
Okay.
Have we
Member
started
Turner?
voting?
Yes, we're turning in our ballots.
Okay, thank you. Hold on.
Won't be yourself.
Tricia, I sent a text. It was easier.
I received it.
Okay.
Member Turner Evans, are you sending your vote to me by email or
It should be in your email now.
in my email? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So quiet.
It's very quiet.
This is the nicest, this is awesome. Quietest I've been in months.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, after counting all the votes, Brad Pollitt received 8 votes for chair. Armando Grande Gomez, 3. Stephanie Seawright received 9 votes for vice chair. Member Bush, 2 for vice chair. Ms. Dixon, 1 for vice chair. And Mr. Gomez, 2 for vice chair. We had a ballot that also voted for Ms. Dixon as chair, but I had to void the vote for chair, as we have on this side Brad Pollitt, then on the column Michael Palmer. Anyway, Mr. Pollitt, it appears that you will be serving another term, and Ms. Wright, where'd she go?
Ms. Seawright?
Ms. Seawright, I'm sorry.
You're right. I'm here.
You have another term also.
All right. Well, thank you all. We're honored. I can't speak for Ms. Seawright. I can speak for myself and say I'm honored to serve. Knowing her, I'm sure she'll say the same or similar.
Yes, sir.
All right. With that being said, our next item of business is Birmingham Crossplex.
So good evening. I'm going to go ahead and just introduce this item, and this is a follow-up to the conversations we've been having about the Crossplex and inspiration around 8th and Waldo. And we've had the pleasure to meet with Miss Oates, and so has Armando, and really enjoyed learning from the process of getting this done, what it took, what they struggled with, how it's operating now. And it's just a lot of really interesting lessons learned, and also community stories that we feel like really relate to some of the ingredients that we have at 8th and Waldo. So I was going to, I'm putting her on the spot, but I was going to give Deborah Bowie an opportunity to introduce Faye Oates, because she has a relationship with her, and I think would enjoy the honor of introducing her. So I'm going to pass the mic to Deborah, and look forward to hearing your presentation, Ms. Oates.
Thank you so much for that, Sarah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do know Faye. I've known Faye for a very long time, way back before she came to the city of Birmingham. And I'm excited that she has been so able and willing and available to give her time to all of our efforts to just learn more about the Crossplex project. Faye is currently the commissioner for sports and entertainment. And that is a position that really, after you hear the presentation, you will understand why she's in that role, but it's a position that's really grown out of an effort that started with this project. I was in Birmingham when this project was put together from a funding perspective. I was literally sitting next to the person who wrote it on the back of a napkin. And Faye had the honor of working through the successive administrations when they actually built it and it came out of the ground. I think you will really enjoy this presentation. Faye is a wealth of knowledge. I'm excited that she is able to share this project because it's a great project, but primarily because, as Sarah alluded to, there are so many parallels between what this project did for the city of Birmingham and I think what we are looking for out of our own 8th and Waldo. So without further ado, Ms. Faye Oates.
Well, thank you, Ms. Deborah. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much. As Ms. Deborah said, I do serve as the Commissioner of Sports and Entertainment with the Mayor's Office. And I started with the city as the director of the Crossplex. So this is kind of full circle. So I'm going to go through this, be kind of quick, but I want to save some time at the end for questions and answers. So I don't know who's advancing the slides. So should I just say go, or that'll be our code word? Oh, there we go. So just will jump right in with the mission of the Crossplex. It's to provide the facility for athletes to compete at the highest level of competition for track and field, swimming and diving, volleyball, and more sports. We strive to stimulate economic growth to the city of Birmingham through events and global and corporate partnerships. And in terms of innovation, which is something on all venues' minds, since social media tweeting and all that stuff is such a thing, Crossplex wanted to carve out our commitment in combining sports, technology, and community to bring another level of excellence to athletes, coaches, parents, and spectators. From a one-of-a-kind hydraulic track to interactive mobile and social apps, we strive to give competitors the best and share it with the rest of the world. Go ahead. So just a quick outline of what we'll be talking about today. The property the Crossplex sits on was the Alabama State Fairgrounds. We'll talk about the idea, just touch on some high points on the operation side of the Birmingham Crossplex. The property, which is now known as Crossplex Village, the development of that. And then again, I'll leave some time for Q&A. Go ahead. The fairgrounds, Alabama State Fairgrounds, which it was known as, is located on the western side of Birmingham. And the fairgrounds was comprised of the Birmingham International Raceway, State Farm Arena and Exposition Building, and Kittyland. It sits on 117 acres and it was acquired by the city of Birmingham in 1947. And for many years, it was home to the state fair, as well as automobile racing, harness racing, and Kittyland. Kittyland is a small amusement park that remained open year-round, but it closed in the early 1990s. And then the state fair stopped using the facility in 2001. And in 2009, Kittyland, the exposition building, and the raceway were torn down to make room for the natatorium and indoor track, which we now call the Crossplex. Go ahead. Here are just a few pictures of what it looked like. The picture on the upper left is the grandstand and the raceway. Haunted house on the bottom left. We had an iconic locomotive, which is in another property in the city that sat on the raceway. So just wanted to show those throwback pictures. Go ahead. And now with the idea. So as Deborah said, the idea literally in the Langford administration was one of those things that said, hey, we can do this. We can do this. And what ended up happening was the area was a very popular area at one time, very rich history, residents very engaged. And at one point it was called Shopping City because it was home to one of the largest shopping centers in the state of Alabama. Well, many things started happening, late 70s, early 80s, industry started to close. The area experienced a lot of blight and a lot of flight. And the Langford administration said, we are going to be committed to doing something with this 117 acres as it will spark development and it will enrich the area once again. And so at the same time, indoor track in the state of Alabama had gone away because there was no place in our state to compete on a championship level. So we did not have indoor track. And we also had several universities who expressed interest in using the pool and the indoor track. So our high school state association was like, we're on board, combined with these universities. There was some financing put in place when the Langford administration was in office. And once they started and got that financing put in place, Brasfield Gorey was hired and the construction began. Go ahead. And advance one more slide for me. Yep, there we go. And so on November 11th, 2011, the Crossplex opened. That's 11/11/11. So Crossplex is actually 3 venues. It's a total of 750,000 square feet. We have an arena, which is 5,000 seats, which is about 75,000 square feet, an 8-lane hydraulic track, 4,000 seats and 7 private suites, which can be converted to 9 volleyball courts, and then an Olympic-sized swimming pool, which is between 10 and 20 lanes, depending on the configuration, 1,100 parking spaces. And so since we've been open in 2011, we have experienced growth year over year. The chart listed under events, you'll see in 2016, we had 112 events, 482 event days, about 235,000 spectators coming through the building. So I'm often asked, how do you have more event days than you have days in the year? And so because we're 3 venues, we could have a swimming meet going on in the pool, a wrestling match in the arena, and a track and field event going on in the track. We count those as 3 separate days. So that's why the number is more than the number of days in a year. You'll see in 2018, we had our most event days with 283,000 attendance, but in 2019, we had our most attended, so just shy of 290,000. So it's a very busy facility, and it takes staffing to do that. This venue has 40 full-time staffers, and that's everything from janitors to skilled labor to office management. And then for each event, we bring in approximately 30 additional staffers. Now that number could go down depending on the size and the number of events, or it could go up. Those additional staffers are people like parking attendants, concession workers, things of that nature, police. Then I have a category I call miscellaneous staff. So you have 2 buckets. You have a staff that the promoter, the person who's putting on the event, pays for, trainers, officials. Then you have other staffers that the city pays for, like the lifeguards, timers, paramedics. So it's a pretty comprehensive staff. Go ahead. So in terms of financials, it's a very expensive building that loses money. I think I pulled these numbers from 2016. On the expense side, you see we have a total of a little over $857,000, and that does not include salaries and overtime, which could probably add about $600,000 to this number. The other thing I want you all to take note, on this slide, we didn't have any non-capital projects. And so when you have a pool and a track that has a Mondo surface, you have to have constant upkeep on those areas. I'll tell you just today, in fact, our city council passed a resolution to invest over $700,000 in resurfacing the track. Now, of course, we don't have to do that, but every 8 to 10 years, depending on the wear and tear, but it is an expense that needs to be considered when building a venue. Now, on the revenue side, we're just shy of $500,000 in revenue. We've got several different buckets of revenue. I'll tell you the concessions number is just a percentage because we contract that out. It was an RFP process. We get anywhere from 15 to 25% on the concessions, depending on what it is. Parking continues to be a challenge. That number is something that can definitely grow. And then our rentals are low because we end up oftentimes partnering with major governing bodies like the NCAA. And so, to be honest with you, we don't charge them rent. But with that said, our economic impact, according to our Convention and Visitors Bureau, is $51 million a year. And so we have someone like the NCAA coming in, they're spending lots of nights. We can guarantee about 1,000 hotel room nights just for them coming in. Next slide, please. And one more slide. So the Crossplex Village, which is now the property that Crossplex sits on, 117 acres, as a result of Crossplex being constructed and the success, on the property alone, we've got a Comfort Inn and Suites, a Walgreens, a J-Wings restaurant, a Starbucks training facility. It's a traditional Starbucks, but they also have a training facility where they bring people from around the country to train to be baristas. Three Daughters Beauty Supply, A.G. Gaston Girls and Boys Club, and Domino's Pizza, just on the property. In addition, since Crossplex has been there, They're businesses that have benefited. They have either opened and greatly benefited from the Crossplex being in existence, and they include Pizza Hut, Captain D's, McDonald's, Subway, Popeyes, Applebee's. I could name several others. We're also excited about Birmingham Rapid Transit, which is the precursor to light rail. Basically what that is it's going to augment our city bus system. And Crossplex has been deemed a mega stop. Just started construction on that mega stop last week. And it's a benefit to the businesses in the area because it takes the transportation need out of the equation, right? Trying to hire folks and they're like, oh, I'll have a car. Well, because we're on the BRT route, it's going to help those businesses. Now, Crossplex is doing great, but we still have our pros and cons. There's some good and then there's some bad. When we initially started this, our community felt bamboozled. They felt like we built this big old fabulous facility and they couldn't come in it because it's a competition facility. The track is not meant for John Q. Public to come walk and get exercise. So we found real creative ways to support the community with meeting rooms. We need a ton of volunteers. We have a ton of training that goes on there, a lot of interest meetings in terms of how to be an official, how to get involved. And we use the Crossplex for that. And so ultimately our citizens are a lot more open and embracing of the Crossplex. In terms of our challenges, of course, COVID-19 has really hit us like it has most communities. Competition is another thing we talk about a lot because when we opened this facility, there were 8 hydraulic tracks in the country. And now I think we're up to 20 with at least 5 more coming on board. In addition to that, in an area, a suburb of Birmingham called Hoover, a facility was built called the Finley Center. And while they have a walking track, it's not a competition track. They also have volleyball courts. I said to you all earlier that we have 9 volleyball courts. I think they have 15. And so we looked at that. We lost a couple volleyball tournaments to the Finley Center. And so initially we thought this was a bad thing, but it's actually turned out to be great because now instead of me going after a 50-team tournament and they going after a 50-team tournament, we're now pooling our resources and we're getting 150 teams and they're using both of our facilities, which makes us as an area even more, we're just a great area to have those kind of large volleyball tournaments. And then the final thing I'll say is negative perception. We're on the western side of town, which is viewed as a disenfranchised community. So when we talk to these big governing bodies, they're oftentimes like, well, we heard this, we heard that bad. Well, we address it head on and we have not had one incident since 2011, since we opened. And oftentimes when folks come, they're like, this is great, this is wonderful. So it's going to be a thing, but it's not a thing you can't overcome. Next slide, please. And this is this was in 2016, but I couldn't find anything more recent. But the buildings in the cream, off-white color, those are buildings that are constructed on the property. Also, the buildings in orange are constructed on the property. What's in blue is what we are working on, and in full disclosure, our developer recently filed bankruptcy. And so the city is having to move in a different direction to get another developer engaged in his property. We feel very confident that we'll be able to do that. Again, COVID has kind of put a little wrench in our process, but because of the success of not only the Crossplex, but the hotel is doing very well, Starbucks is doing very well. So the businesses surrounding it are doing very well. So we feel confident we'll be able to get another developer. Next slide, please. And next slide. And so I'll take any questions, and I just put some notable events that we have done and are doing. From the NCAA, we host the largest volleyball championship in the country, about 20,000 folks through the doors, course of 4 days. We got the Pan American Gymnastics Championship coming up in May. World Games in 22. The SEC will be running their track and field championship in 23, along with the Division I National Championship and World Police and Fire Games in 25. And so we just continue to try to make this the best facility ever and get some big games, big competitions. So any questions?
Thank you so much for that presentation. I'm going to start down here. Mr. Blount, Member Blount has a question.
Thank you for joining us. Can you hear me? I don't know if she can hear me.
She said yes. She just
okay.
Can't hear her.
I used to live in Alabama, so the name A.G. Gaston really resonated. Were you able to secure any significant private donors for this project? And my second question is purely in terms of the current crisis. Are you doing, is this Crossplex Center serving as a testing or immunization center for the community?
So private donor, we have some private sponsors. All three of these venues have pretty large jumbotrons or digital boards, and those boards have spaces for signage, digital signage. And so we charge a premium to be on those signs. And we've secured, I think, 4, a bank, a pouring rights, a athletic apparel. And so those were pretty significant amounts. And, you know, we're government, so it wasn't as easy as just going out doing a pitch. We had to put an RFP out there. And in terms of the pandemic, we are not for Crossplex, and here's why. Track season takes place from December 1 until roughly April 1st, and they have track events going on 3-4 times a week. So we don't have the space to accommodate all the school buses and college buses, and all the parking comes along with those track meets, and to be able to handle giving out shots and doing testing. But we have Legion Field, which is about 2 miles down the road, and they are.
I forgot one question also. I'm not familiar with a hydraulic track. Is that just a very high rebound surface?
So it's a bank track, much like NASCAR, and you know how the cars go and they banked around the curbs. So our track is able to electronically raise and lower. It takes about 4 to 5 minutes for it to be fully raised and fully lowered. And it is the thought, and I'm no science guru, but the thought is when these athletes come around that bank and it's elevated like that, it allows them to be faster. And so it took a lot of engineering to get this track to be up and down, and it's pretty much a feat. You see permanently banked tracks or you see flat tracks. You rarely see tracks that can be both.
Thank you.
Member Bush?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Oates, for the presentation. It was very informative, and we appreciate you being with us this evening. My question is related to kind of the financials, and being that the complex, it appears that it runs at a deficit. So my question is there a public subsidy to operate the complex? And if so, is that the city, is that the CVB? And just generally, if you could expand upon your kind of current relationship with the CVB and how involved they are in funding different programs that come through there, if any portion of the bed tax goes towards your operating budget. Just trying to understand the role of the CVB a little bit more. Thank you.
So we have a great relationship with the CVB in terms of they're out kind of beating the pavement to get folks to come to our city because they're totally funded through hotel tax, right? So they're strictly heads and beds kind of organization. But in terms of funding the facility, they do not. But they have an interest in making sure the facility stays packed, because oftentimes folks who are in the Crossplex are staying in hotels. I didn't get the first part of your question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
It was related to the financials, and does the complex run at a deficit? And if so, what public entity subsidizes the operations?
So yes, the Crossplex runs at a deficit, but it's the city of Birmingham who subsidizes it.
Thank you.
Member Mitchell.
Thank you, Commissioner Oates, for the presentation. You alluded to the negative perception as one of the challenges that you dealt with in getting the Crossplex up and running. What I wanted to ask, how easy was it to bring these businesses there that you listed in the presentation under this negative perception? And also, what moves did you make as a city to get these different businesses there?
So our big thing was to go after the big fish, for lack of a better term, right? So we felt like if we had our high school association, and in Alabama, high school sports is huge. If we had the NCAA in our building competing, we would have a trickle down effect. And that's exactly what happened. The NCAA, not lucky, but they weren't caught up in our politics or who said what. You know, they're out of Indianapolis. They're just looking for the best facility to host the best national championship they can. And so when they came down to do a site visit, they were like, this is fantastic. When they signed on board, all of the college conferences wanted to run. So we have 8 college conferences that host their college conference championship at the Crossplex, because they know it's a good chance that the national championship, be it Division 1, 2, or 3, will be at the Crossplex. So I won't say it was easy, but I think our focus was to make sure our facility was fantastic. And we gave these governing bodies no reason to not say yes. And we put a lot of from having a lot of bandwidth so everybody can do their social media thing, making sure we can accommodate any television that came in the building. We had the building's total fiber optics. So we tried to put everything in that building to make it easy to say yes. And it worked.
Yes, so would you say that once the NCAA came in, that all these other businesses, that created a demand as well as a synergy to get all these others, like a hotel and all these other accommodations in there?
Yes. Once we got the NCAA, it did, and we started getting all these college conference championship. We used a lot of the numbers I shared with you today in terms of number of event days, number of spectators, absolutely went into the developer presentation to secure Starbucks and the hotel and things like that. So I work very closely with the developer, and we'll do it in naming the next developer, because we wanted to know that this property and any business that was on the property was going to absolutely benefit from the Crossplex being there. And so I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was absolutely a strategy.
And this will be my last question, but thank you so much for what you've provided. Did the city offer any kind of incentives to these businesses to also help with the draw? And what were they?
So since there was a developer involved, the city did not offer incentives to the businesses, but did offer incentives to the developer. So like the property, when the partnership was in effect, the city leased the property to the developer. And that's a little bigger than my brain, but there was some financial incentive that allowed him to recruit and secure businesses having ownership of the property. He didn't have to do that in the financials. Does that make sense?
I think I get a sense of it.
Good?
Thank you, Commissioner.
No questions? I'm looking down the line. Anybody push their lights if they have a question, or you're up.
Can you speak a little bit more about kind of where you guys are at with public transit in relationship, relationship to either like getting people like into a downtown area or getting people around the city? Are you like currently are you guys just mostly like you said parking cars and then like Uber and Lyft? Do you guys have a public transit system in Birmingham?
Yes, we have a public transit system, but we got a huge grant a couple years ago for this Birmingham Rapid Transit. Like I said, cursor to light rail. And so this route will be from the eastern side of Birmingham to the western side of Birmingham with limited stops, and it'll be faster than your traditional bus. Our transit system has done a good job, but this is going to help them do a better job because, like I said, we have a lot of stops in a very relatively small area when you think about it. And this grant offsets the cost of doing this rapid transit, and it allows athletes, spectators, officials, as well as anybody who's working at these businesses to get to the Crossplex area and back to the east side in a record amount of time. Another thing that makes BRT so appealing is it's a mega stop. So the plan, and I wish I had the renderings, it's a pretty large facility that will have restaurants, and I think they're going to incorporate like the library. So it's being promoted more than just a stop. And it's something as we go after these games, because as you all know, when you've got spectators coming into your city, they got to get around more than just Uber and Lyft.
Yeah, that's exciting. Any idea on the timeline, like where the process you guys are on that, or how's the?
2022 is when it's supposed to be completed. Summer of 22.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It was excellent.
Is there any other question or comment from the group? Do we have any public questions? Pardon? You got a question? Okay.
Hello, Ms. Oates.
Hi.
This is Armando. So, first of all, I wanted to just tell you how great of a host you were to myself and Mr. Henry. It was certainly a learning experience, and one thing I could not convey, and I don't think even the gravity of what people could touch, see, and feel about this complex, what was amazing is there's two things, and I think it's something that Ms. Bowie talked to 3 years ago when this was introduced to us, is that development can absolutely take place in a predominantly black community, number one. And the West End is very similar to our East Side. And the other thing that's important, even though the numbers and when we talked about this last month, we didn't have a quorum, but some of the members were here, some were not. What was unfortunate was that we had the ability to talk about in a magnificent way is that there were challenges that sometimes got in the way with government. And you dealt with those challenges in Birmingham, we're dealing with them here, is what we always hear from one side of government says we have challenges and, well, we have one section of town that's doing it. You just proved when you brought up the Finley Center in Hoover, we have something similar here, but it's right down the road, except it's right in the same neighborhood. It's on our western part of our city, which is just over on the highway for us, is that our own county government is building an event center. And so we're saying we can't do this. And what we're showing with this development, Ms. Oates, and what you're just validating, which I appreciate, bringing that pure thing about, which is we attracted business, because many times through either ill-conceived notions, systemic illicit bias, or systemic racism, we have not had development in the black community. And really nothing when it comes to this city, Ms. Oates, when you think of the city of Gainesville, you don't think of a destination place here. We don't have our own identity outside of UF. And so something like this would bring identity. And we're not saying we could necessarily do 750,000 square feet. It's just the option that some members of this board, or a large portion of this board, wanted to talk about doing a big project. And we're talking about we can do something magnanimous and have change. And you showed what attracts change. And when you had the right planning in place, the right event stuff in place. And so what I really want to just thank you is for allowing us to see a part of something and see it firsthand, because really even just a virtual tour, this is just a glimpse of the greatness that is in Birmingham. And it really takes political willpower. It takes political willpower to say that we want to have development and not go small simply because of where the community is at. It's like, as Mr. Henry likes to always articulate, it's a canvas. And on this canvas, we can either choose to create a magnanimous portrait and paint something really good. And that is what Birmingham did. Birmingham decided to say, no matter what we get, what pushback we get, no matter what kind of things we get, we can do something big. And what I appreciate about you, Ms. Oates, and Ms. Bowie, is that you're showing this, us as a city, on a smaller scale, we can do this. It's just going to take us having the willpower. At side of deficits and side of numbers, it attracts and has local economic impact to many businesses in the community. So really, I don't have any questions for you. I really just want to thank you, Ms. Oates, for being just a great host, for being who you are, and just showing us what potential we have. And Ms. Bowie as well, thank you. And I just wanted to tell you that very much.
Thank you, Member Gomez. I'll go back out to the public. Do we have any public comment or questions? We got one here in the house. Yes, sir. State your name and then proceed.
Yes, my name is Donald Shepard. I'm People's Representative. I'll be running for mayor in 2022. I think this is an excellent idea. Thank you, Mr. Gomez, for bringing this to the attention of the people. Where would you put something like this here, Mr. Gomez?
I'm sorry.
Where would you put an event area
may I
in
answer,
this
Mr.
town?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Mr. Shepard, what we're talking about doing, Mr. Shepard, is this board is we're looking at ideas of something we could do on the 8th and Waldo corridor, around 8th and Waldo Road. And so we're just giving an idea. We're not saying we want to do something exactly like this. We're just saying we're giving an idea of what something could be as a potential, as an idea. So it's just kind of like brainstorming. We want to put together a foundation to do something big and transformative. And so we've never had something that's transformative in our city to provide a destination place. We always go small. That's what we tend to do here. And so we're saying we don't want to do that anymore, especially for this side of the community.
That answer your question?
That answered one of my questions.
Okay.
Oh, okay. My next question was that the transportation ethic of this. This is for the lady there. How did you put together the piece of the transportation in your city to take and make this happen? Was this funded by your city, or was this funded by your group?
That's a question to Ms. Oates about their bus rapid transit, how you got that funded?
So I know enough to be dangerous, not necessarily knowledgeable.
That's fair.
About the transit piece. I know it was, we secured a very large grant to do this, but I don't think it covered the total cost. And I'm not sure where the remaining monies came from.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my next question is that I had thought of this also 2 years ago. I have a location that I'd like to put it. It's similar to the one he's thinking of, but I can't do it until I get into mayorship. And so I'm saying that I like hearing everything you brought to us today, CRA and your people, and your people did an excellent job of hosting this. This is opening night for Gainesville, and so how can Mr. Gomez, our board member, how can you see, or Mr. Sharon Henry, how can you see this happening in Gainesville?
Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Mr. Shepard, I'm happy to talk to you offline and answer your questions so we can allow for other questions, but I'm happy to talk to you about that, how we could do that. But it won't be just individually me. Us as a board, we are the redevelopment, as a CRA, we're the redevelopment arm advisory board to the city commission. So we as a board will collectively come together to make an advisory decision and provide that recommendation to the city commission.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Because I have a security staff that I could take and have fund this fund this staple so that we could move this forward. And I'd like to talk to you off board, off TV here, about this so that we could take and eventually get this going.
Thank you,
Because
Mr.
I see
Chairman.
this happening in 2023.
All right, thank you.
So, thank you all.
Thank you. Other public comments, I see Mr. Henry. Oh, time to wipe down. Thank you, sir.
Chair Pollock and the board, good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you. Also, I want to thank the presenter for the wonderful presentation as well. I just wanted to address about 3 points. I wanted to start out by addressing the deficit, because I felt the rise in the room, and when the presenter mentioned that it runs out of deficit, I kind of felt a little lowering there. But you have to take into account when it comes to government, we do a lot of things that actually aren't revenue producing, but they serve the greater good. I mean, our transportation system doesn't turn a profit, but we need it to get our citizens to and fro, jobs, shopping, and that kind of thing as well. I would like to give an example, a case in point. When I served on the city commission, we had a great debate about closing Ironwood, because Ironwood for years had run a deficit and it wasn't paying for itself. And we had wild spaces, public places, and as we did a survey, it showed that we needed about $300,000 to invest in Ironwood to bring it up to where it possibly would be profitable. And some of my colleagues at the time entertained the conversation of closing Ironwood, and I fought that, and I got my colleagues to agree with me to keep it open. And it was really one of the best decisions the city commission could have made, because Ironwood is not only a jewel of East Gainesville, but it is a jewel of the city of Gainesville, and is one of the rare public golf courses in our area as well. So hearing that this runs out of deficit to a degree shouldn't be discouraging as well. If we look at investment that we've done for the greater good, such as Depot Park, we invested millions in Depot Park, cleaning out the contaminated soil, shipping it off to be taken care of, and investing in that. So don't shut down because you heard about the deficit, okay? Let's keep an open mind of the possibilities, because again, nothing has happened or been decided or framed, and that's the beauty of this. For myself, no, I don't look to build something on the magnitude of the Crossplex, but they have elements that I feel will benefit us here in Gainesville as well. When you think about it, number one, we don't have to build a pool. We already have a pool in that area adjacent to MLK. We've also had conversations with the superintendent, and she shared needs that the school system had when it came to athletics that an endeavor like this could possibly support as well. Transportation. As we know, the area that we're looking at has had a transportation deficit for years. So to me, I look at this as sort of a positive, because if this is done, somehow we're going to have to improve our transportation opportunities as well. And for an area like East Gainesville, that would be a boon to the citizens there, because right now we have regional transit and we now have the microbus And besides Uber and Lyft, I mean, and cabs, that's about it as well. So there are great positives that can come out of this. And again, we have brought forth developments, or government has been involved in endeavors that did not turn a profit. But on the bright side, if you look at the bigger picture, this will be a catalyst for economic development as well. And as she stated, they are seeing $51 million from the catalyst that this brings about as far as economic development. And I really see this particular endeavor possibly doing the same thing if it's done the right way. So I ask you to please just keep an open mind as you consider pursuing this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment or questions? I got you. All right, and bring it back to the committee. Mr. Gomez?
Mr. Chair, the one thing I wanted to elaborate, Ms. Oates, the one thing I wanted to talk about that I also learned that I thought would be, especially Mr. Henry just reminded me of it and bringing it up. The one thing that's amazing to my colleagues about the Birmingham Crossplex that would be, and Mr. Henry just really brought up, that would really hit home for us, and having a conversation with our superintendent, the Crossplex is used by a lot of the local schools. The local schools use that facility at no cost. So you're talking about not only just indoor track, indoor pool, and Ms. Oates, please correct me if I'm wrong. They use it, even the high schools, middle schools, whatever, the schools, local Birmingham schools use it. Private schools pay, colleges pay, everybody else pays, but the local Birmingham schools benefit this. So what I would say is if we use in contrast that here, imagine all the schools here that benefit from the GHS that need a multi-purpose facility that encompasses, it brings community together. It allows us to have our schools to have it. The superintendent says even for Citizens Field, for them to refurbish it, is going to be a heavy lift and they don't have the funds to do it now. They were talking about building a $150 million stadium at Buchholz, which Buchholz doesn't want. So that's number one. So for us to really look at the community aspects, we know that schools unite and bring people together. People unite around neighborhood schools. And all the schools that are around this community, whether it be Metcalf, which is getting underway, Howard Bishop, Eastside, Eastside High, all of Hawthorne, who could use this facility, brings us together, creates a destination place. So, and Mr. Henry is exactly right when it comes to public transit. There's a nice little book out there called The Nickel and Diming of Public Transit. It is a human capital investment. So that's what we're talking about here. Things that can transmogrify a community is something like this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Member Blount.
I just wanted to assure the last public commenter, and I think I'm probably not speaking for just myself on this panel, when that the local government eating $375K a year to produce an impact 150 times greater, 51 million, that loss was moot. It's like, so what? So I think a lot of us can get that right away.
Thank you, Mr. Blount. Any other items for discussion? I don't see, I've got Ms. Bowie, you have your hand up.
I do. I just wanted to thank you so much, Commissioner Oates, for your presentation. But I also wanted to say just in the last 2 weeks, she actually moved to the Office of Economic Development. And I think that's notable because as you can see from her presentation, from where the project started, Birmingham had some early wins with the hosting some of the 96 soccer Olympics, if I remember correctly. And obviously Birmingham hosts the largest HBCU Classic in the country. So it already had a little bit of the seeds there for sports, but this Crossplex has really allowed Birmingham to really make a name for itself in this area of work, right? So they've got a commissioner position now. It is an economic development. It is economic development. That's all it is, right? So just the fact that I think she's moved to that department, I think speaks volumes about how something smart starts small. and then turns into a full body of work and gives the city the potential to rebrand itself and go after things like the World Police and Fire Games and the Southeastern Conference and the World Games. And years ago, there was sort of a running joke about Birmingham hosting the Olympics. And maybe they're a long way from that, but just an incredible amount of work in a very short period of time. I just thought it was noteworthy to highlight that.
Thank you. I don't have any more hands up. I don't see any more comment from the board. We're not requiring a vote or anything on this. There's
Point of information.
Sure.
Point of information, Ms. Vidal or Ms. Bowie, are we going to require not necessarily a vote, but a point of some kind of direction? Should we provide direction of where we want to maybe go with this? What would staff be wanting from us on this?
So I think the recommendation tonight was to hear the presentation and certainly offer any discussion, but I'll let Sarah speak to next steps. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Exactly, this was really as a follow-up to the discussions and requests from the board. And so next steps would be Caper would come back with an update on where they are on leading kind of this initiative forward. I believe that we have it slated for next month, but I can double check that. And then if I may, Chair, there was a question earlier that I received the answer to. So I wanted to let the board know that Southern Charm appraisal was $215,000. So that will be the purchase price.
Okay, thank you. So to answer Member Gomez's question, next month you believe Caper's coming back with the broader project at the Waldo and 8th area, and that would be the appropriate time to engage further conversation about Crossplex as a portion or all of that project. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, that satisfied. Very good.
I have a
All right.
question.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, what is the acreage of the 8th and Waldo Road property?
The
Mr.
8th and
Chair,
Waldo
what is
project?
What is the
That's-
chair,
that's-
Sarah?
I can answer that.
Hold
I'm
on,
sorry, I
let me
didn't
get-
hear the
let me get-
question.
What
we get
is
staff.
the acreage of the 8th and Waldo Road?
The acreage of the 8th and Waldo area.
Oh gosh, I don't remember, to be honest. I'm not sure if Eric or
You know?
Tariq
I do.
are
I GIS'd
on.
it.
Member Gomez knows.
I GIS'd it. Member Fox. I GIS'd it. The total land that's developable there is 47.53 acres.
All right. Mr. Blount?
I have two questions. Is the existing pool Olympic size? And is the acreage you just quoted, does that include the public works and fire department area that may be moving elsewhere? Thank you.
Does staff know any of that? Mr. Gomez says he knows, so we'll ask him.
Okay, so can I get some just to get clarity on your question? You're talking about where the fire department land area is including, is that what you're talking about?
The acreage you're quoting includes
Yes.
that.
Okay, yes, it is. So it's including two things. Thank you for the clarity of that. It is including that. So my understanding from the manager is that they're gonna end up moving a lot of the fire facilities there anyway because it's owed to somewhere else. So it is including that, yes.
And you had a question about the pool?
Oh, the pool. And the pool is Olympic size, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. No more questions. We will move on to the next item. Thank you again to Birmingham for this wonderful opportunity to see what you've done. It's great. Thank you. Next item is 200830 Downtown Chronic Homelessness Street Outreach Initiative. we teeing somebody up for that?
Yes, sorry about that, Sarah Vidal. So again, I think I'm going to introduce Ms. Bowie first, just to go ahead and give you some context around this item that's coming forward. And I believe the city manager's on the line, and then also John DeCarmine from Grace to go ahead and add some more details about the proposal and answer any questions that you all might have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Deborah.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I think we were just hesitating because we didn't know who was going to start. And the manager is here, but I'm happy to just get right into it. This came up, this topic of just homelessness in our downtown sector came up recently at one of our meetings, if you all remember. And we've internally been in a lot of discussion with our homeless care provider through Grace about how to solve, right? You know, COVID has created a significant challenge. We've seen spread, we've seen camps pop up, and we all know that people need to be near the resources. And the further they are away from the resources, the more challenging it is to really solve the problem. So there are just really 5 significant points that I think the manager really wanted us to express as to this item on the agenda tonight. And that's, some of it's kind of obvious, but it's just worth restating that we know homelessness itself is not a crime. Our downtown has a significant and growing homeless population. And I just mentioned the fact that they need services, so it doesn't serve them or us for them to be further away from where they can receive the services that Grace offers, so that the ultimate goal is to get people housed. While we know the service is traditionally with the county, the city has continued to identify a gap in the level of service. And clearly the gap in the level of service has a lot to do with the outreach effort, the outreach teams. Those who are going out, who are trained in this work to deal with very difficult populations that in many cases purposefully put themselves as far away from the service center as they can possibly get. So one of the ideas that we talked about in-house was that our GCRA plan, this is very broad, and the overall mission talks about the quality of life for the people who live here, and clearly quality of life for the downtown area is a broad enough term that we think it applies. And so the idea is that we would use the funding from the old downtown TIF to help fund the outreach effort to start getting out into the downtown corridor and the contiguous areas to begin to offer those services. And with that, I will ask John to share more about the outreach plan itself and Grace's role in it. And then of course, either one of us would be available for questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deborah. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is John DeCarmine. I'm the Executive Director of Grace. For those of you who may not be familiar with our services, I'm just going to give a quick overview of who we are and what we do, and then I'll hop right into the outreach proposal. So Grace organizes all of our services around the orientation of ending homelessness. And for a lot of agencies, that's something new, something that folks had not seen before, because historically, and what we see with homelessness downtown is there has been a lot of effort on managing homelessness and things, providing things like meals and socks and toothbrushes that are important to help people meet their basic needs, but without a housing component attached to it, really don't do anything to end the episode of homelessness that somebody might be experiencing. So in our philosophy, housing is the only solution to homelessness. We believe everyone is ready for housing now. And any work that we do that doesn't involve housing is not likely to actually get us to a point where we're seeing substantial reductions in homelessness in the community. Quick overview of what we do on our main campus. We've got 135 shelter beds, 15 campsites that are just the last remnants of the successful closure of Dignity Village. We operate using a one-stop model. So that means basically somebody only needs to know to come to Grace to be able to get everything from food, clothing, emergency shelter, through computer lab, the women's safe space. And then we also bring in about a dozen different service providers, ranging from the Department of Children and Families to Three Rivers Legal Services. We've got court services out here, Career Source, all kinds of different agencies, so that somebody just needs to know to show up, and then we can kind of walk them through the rest of that process. Our focus on housing has been successful. Since we opened in 2014, we are closing in on having housed 1,600 people, serving about 15,900 members of the community. And overall, we've reduced the number of people without housing in Alachua County by 36%. Now, that number is based around the point in time counts where we know in 2014, just before Grace opened, we found 1,202 people without housing on the street or in shelters or in institutions in the area. In 2020, that number is now below 800. We are now expecting the data from the 2021 point in time count in the next couple of weeks. And I believe we'll be able to report an ongoing decrease. This is the longest sustained decrease in homelessness in our community since we started counting in 2003. At the same time, there has been a visible increase in homelessness, particularly related to panhandling, folks in the medians. And so there are a couple different things that have happened there. So while we have gotten better at providing services people need directly to get off of the streets, we have seen an increase in visibility of homelessness. The actual number of people has not gone up. In fact, it has dropped dramatically. But there is the perception and there is the reality. And right now the perception is that homelessness is exploding around the community. And so I want to talk through some solutions for that tonight. In general, outreach, let me start with an Outreach 101. There are a number of people in our community who, for whatever reason, either reject or have been rejected by the existing shelter services that exist. There is a critical disconnect downtown where the one homeless services agency that is right in the thick of the biggest population of folks without housing doesn't actually provide any kind of housing or shelter services to those individuals. Street outreach overall is based on the philosophy of bringing services to people to connect them with what they need to get off the streets as quickly as possible. So when we're talking about street outreach, it is everything from going downtown, building rapport with people, again, remembering that people have historically either avoided or been rejected by the shelter system through the policies that exist in those shelters. Our overarching goal is to reduce and end unsheltered downtown homelessness by moving people into housing and then supporting them from that point forward. We do operate using the housing first philosophy, and that basically holds that any service or resource that we can provide to somebody is more effective if we can provide it in their own home, as opposed to expecting them to solve all of these other crises while they're still in crisis and then telling them that we believe they're ready for housing. Again, we believe everybody's ready for housing now, and what all the research shows is that the services we can provide are not only more effective, but they're more cost effective when we can do that in somebody's own home. The proposal builds very much on the success of the Dignity Village outreach team. We are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the closure of Dignity Village. We are, to my knowledge, the first community in the country who has closed a large-scale homeless camp with absolutely zero arrests and a strong, strong emphasis on moving people into permanent housing. On a timeline, you can see we're kind of coming up on that 1-year mark. We closed Dignity Village on March 2nd of 2020. Overall, we've reduced the number of people who were on that roster. There were 222 people there, reduced that by 88%. We did that by moving 125 people into permanent housing. 15 people remain on a temporary campground that we set up on the Grace campus, and there are about 15 other people who chose not to move onto the Grace campground, but instead chose to live elsewhere in the community. Some initial outreach we have done has found 3 of those individuals downtown, but I do want to stress here that the visibility of homelessness downtown is not a result of the closure of Dignity Village. What we know, based on the names we have and shelter use records and homeless service use records, is that the vast majority of the people who chose not to come onto the Grace campground, in fact, moved into small camps in the woods in areas nearby downtown. They may hang out downtown, but they are not individuals who are actually living downtown. So going through the proposal, and I believe you saw the proposal included in the backup for this meeting. Our primary goal is to get people off the streets and into housing. We want to connect the unhoused population downtown to existing resources with an emphasis on really facilitating access to housing through other networks in town, including the Continuum of Care's coordinated entry system. We'll do this by building relationships with them outside of the traditional service system. So this is not built around the idea that if somebody really wanted help, they would just come to Grace. People often have good reasons for refusing to come to shelters. Some have had bad experiences there. Some people don't want to live communally with 135 other people. And for whatever reason, what we know is housing is the right intervention, but how can we get that to folks without having them come into an existing shelter? And housing as an intervention is critical here. There are multiple kinds of ways that we can deliver housing to people. We triage folks very much like you would in a hospital emergency room. So there are some people who are going to require short time limited interventions, other folks all the way through who are going to require long-term ongoing support to be able to sustain housing and not return to the street. But overall, the outreach team is also an intervention where we're intentionally, deliberately, and politely interfering with the things that have people being comfortable being homeless. And there's a respectful persistence involved here that we use to get the folks on the street to consider alternatives to outdoor homelessness. Finally, a key objective of this proposal is to work with law enforcement to implement a way that we stop as a community treating law enforcement as a social service provider. What we know is that the vast majority of issues that folks have when they are downtown are not law enforcement issues. In fact, many of the things that people most often come into contact with law enforcement for, things like using the bathroom or having a beer or sleeping, are not illegal if you do them in your own home. So what we're trying to build here is a community response that is not only more effective in dealing with very real human needs than law enforcement, but it would also free up law enforcement time to be dealing with any number of other issues that are not simply related to seeing people downtown. We're also going to be using this team to work with downtown business owners, much like we work with landlords. So we often talk in our housing programs, we manage about 51 units of housing, private landlords, but we put people in and then we provide ongoing support. But we find that we have to case manage the landlords just as often as we do the people in the housing programs. And with this, what we're providing is a group of folks where business owners can reach out to our team, say, hey, I'm having this ongoing issue with this gentleman in front of my store. Would you mind coming by and talking with them? We can work with them, make sure they're connected with existing resources, and also try to carry some of the interests of the business community forward while making sure that it doesn't involve any unnecessary criminal justice contact for the person who's just in the midst of a housing crisis and really nothing beyond that. So the scope for this project, and I'll go through this briefly because I'm sure there will be a lot of questions. What we have presented in the budget you've seen in the backup is sufficient for 3 full-time street outreach workers. These are professional staff. They are trained. They are building again on their experience. 2 of them will come from the team that successfully closed down Dignity Village, and they'll be able to provide outreach services 6 days a week in the greater downtown area. This includes everything from assessments to building rapport. Sometimes, again, there are a number of people downtown who have attempted to get help time and time and time again, and have found either that social service agencies haven't followed through with their commitments. They've told individuals that they might be too difficult to work with, or they're outside the scope of what they can do. So what we're also trying to do is bring people back into the fold. And if delivering the services directly to them is the way that works best, then that's the way we're going to approach it. We will be relying heavily on existing resources. So the housing commitment here comes not only through Grace's own permanent supportive housing programs and rapid rehousing programs, but also similar programs run by the county, rapid rehousing programs that other providers deliver as well. The goal with this level of staffing would be that we could respond within 1 business day to any downtown requests for assistance or wellness checks. And we would work with GPD to develop a process for the referral of non-criminal calls. So again, we don't need to have them get involved if what we're talking about is a quality of life issue or a wellness check issue, when we can respond to that and more appropriately connect somebody with the services and resources that they need. I will tell you that we have kept our project outcomes deliberately conservative here, but we fully intend to outperform what you see in front of you. So in the first year, we will commit to 12 housing placements. That's 6 placements into diversion and then 6 placements into housing programs. We'll also work with the coordinated entry system in the community to connect 24 people who are not currently connected to any services to the local housing list. Of those, at least 10 will be working with them in document readiness. That's kind of a homeless services buzzword, but basically that means, does somebody have every document that they need so that when their name comes up on the housing list, they're ready to sign a lease today? So that's working with people to get IDs, birth certificates, social security cards. Some of that stuff's really difficult to do, even if you're in your own home and you have your own computer and you have a place to get mail and you have a telephone. It can be virtually impossible without the right support when you're on the street. And then we'll also, in the first year, respond to at least 50 calls for service, about 1 a week, in place of law enforcement, and continue to work to develop those systems. Now, I tell you, these are very conservative outcomes. We want to get in here and make sure this works. I will tell you that so far, we have, since presenting this initially to the General Policy Committee back, 3-4 months ago, we have been sending a team downtown for a few hours each week. And in the first 36 hours of time, that's 2 people spending about 18 hours a week, 18 hours total, we've identified 29 people downtown. In those initial contacts with 29 people, we have worked with 6 people to exit downtown. 3 of them have moved into housing. 1 of them has moved to, well, actually 3 moved into housing. 3 more came into the shelter upon us making some accommodations so that they were willing to stop sleeping near Lynch Park and instead come and set up at Grace so that we could work with them for housing. So overall, that's a roughly 20% success rate just from the start in 36 hours of work. So that's what we're looking to do and to build on that success. We also were able to conduct 10, I'll just call them assessments. We use a tool, a shared tool across all homeless service providers called the Vulnerability Index Service Provider Decision Assistance Tool. It's also known as the VI-SPAN. That basically is that triage tool that tells us what the right housing intervention is for somebody. And in these cases, we were able to conduct 10 of these VI-SPANs, get 1 person immediately into housing as a result of that, and bring a total of 5 people back onto the housing list that our community uses for housing placement. So again, we understand that there are a number of people downtown. We understand that some of them, but not all of them, are connected to homeless services, but many, many more we're finding have lost that connection. So that means right now, without outreach, without people delivering these services, this connection to these resources, there is nothing that will happen other than they will continue to stay downtown. We do have, I just want to end with this, we have outreach in town right now. And I want to make sure that I'm very clearly distinguishing between what has been happening and what will happen with this team. So we have about 5 different outreach teams in our community. One of them is focused on veterans. Another one is focused on medical needs and COVID support. And these and all of these other outreach programs are right now very siloed. They're very much driven by the medical team can only address medical services. They can only provide information on COVID. They can only provide some basic wellness checks. Another outreach team can only work on legal services, and another one can only work on veteran services. So while we have some groups in place handling this, there's a couple things that aren't working right now. The first is that they're contact driven. They measure their success by the number of people that they speak with. And in some instances, those outputs might be great, but at the end of the day, even if you've handed out 350 pamphlets and 200 business cards, you haven't actually ended somebody's homelessness. All of the information that I'm sharing with you and all of the outcomes for this team are driven entirely by housing placements and the steps needed to get somebody into permanent housing. So that's it. That's a brief overview of the program. And with that, I would be delighted to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you to all the presenters. Looking to our group, do we have any questions? Member Blount?
Yes, I've heard chatter in the community, people with vaccine hesitancy and doubters of COVID talking about, well, COVID can't be real because if it was real, the most vulnerable people are the homeless and it's not hitting them. But when I work the COVID unit at hospital, I see plenty of people labeled as homeless. So what has been the impact of the COVID dilemma out at Grace, and do you recognize cases there or kind of get them sent away quickly to be identified with the Shands ER or someplace like that instead of counted at Grace? Thank you.
Absolutely. That is a great question. What we know about COVID and homeless shelters is that when it hits hard. You know, back in March of 2020, 20 years ago, we saw shelters in San Francisco that went from 1 case to 75 in the course of a week. In New York, we saw it go from 1 case to 350 in the course of 2 or 3 weeks. And we knew that our mission was to provide safe shelter and effective services, and we had to find a way to deliver that in a way that also mitigated the risk of people living in congregate facilities. So, for us, I'm very proud to report that at this point, we have had no evidence at all of community transmission in the Grace shelters. We do COVID testing twice weekly. In order to get a shelter bed, you have to come in on Mondays or Fridays to get a rapid COVID test. We, like many others, have also become amateur epidemiologists in the past year, where we have our own quarantine and isolation building. We have a contact tracing program in place. We have seen 8 COVID positive cases attempting to enter the shelter, but through contact tracing through the quarantine and isolation unit. And I don't want to go without recognizing the incredible work of the UF Mobile Outreach Clinic, our partnership with the health department, and particularly Grace Healthcare Services Corp. We have been able to eliminate any kind of community spread and also make sure that folks are, in fact, most of my homeless guests here have been tested many, many more times than my housed friends, because we do have testing twice a week. We also do a mass testing event once a month. I will say the most insidious piece of this will probably not be the coronavirus pandemic so much as it will be the economic pandemic that follows. Groups like the Aspen Institute and National Low Income Housing Coalition estimate that once the eviction moratorium ends, as many as 43% of renter households will face eviction. In Alachua County, that translates to about 19,000 people. That's about 20 times, more than 20 times our current homeless population. So we're working with the continuum of care to make sure that we are shoring up what we are doing to provide appropriate homelessness prevention at this point as well.
Let's see, who do we got next?
That was a wonderful presentation, and thank you so much. And what you're expecting of this board is to approve the recommendation for the TIF funding for the purpose of homeless outreach as described. So if that's what you're asking, I move to make that recommendation, put in the form of a motion. If no more discussion.
If you want to, you can. I'm wondering if we want to hear from everybody else that might want to make a comment, but we can do that after a motion if you like. All right.
Okay, I move that we accept the recommendation from the that was outlined, that was just discussed, and that we approve it at this time.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. There is further discussion because I see lights going. So let me go and work my way through the lights. All right, that's Mitchell, right? I can't see whose light's going and who's not. So, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to get more of an understanding of how your process works in the past performance. So you say you have 6 housing programs. What exactly does that look like? And and the people that you said you've been able to put into housing, where are you putting them? Because we have a housing shortage, but I just want to get a better understanding of the people that you're putting in housing. Where are you putting them, and what does your inventory look like?
Sure. If I understand your question correctly, let me run through what we have. So I'll distinguish between our 4 emergency shelter programs and then our permanent housing programs.
Could you just elaborate on the permanent ones, please? I think I got the shelter ones. I wanted to understand the permanent ones, if you would.
So through funding, through a variety of sources, including the State Department of Children and Families, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and other sources, we work directly with private landlords. We do not own any of the units, but instead, again, if somebody is to be moving into housing, then we want to get them in as a tenant and then have them sign their own lease. So we do that for our rapid rehousing programs. For the permanent supportive housing programs, we tend to use what's known as master leasing, where I have the lease as the Alachua County Coalition for the Homeless and Hungry, and then we will sublet to our tenants in partnership with the property management company. We work primarily with about a dozen different housing properties in the community, ranging from Holly Heights to places, so largely up in the Southwest, up in Southeast Gainesville, but really throughout the community, including some newly constructed properties on Northwest 6th Street. And I do want to just make a quick comment about the housing shortage. We do not have a housing shortage in our community. In fact, according to the Census Bureau, we have about 19,000 vacant housing units in Alachua County. The issue is what housing is available that is affordable to the people who need it most.
Thank you. So another thing you mentioned about, I think you were alluding to St. Francis downtown. Have you tried to partner with them in any way to streamline your outreach, since they're also in the downtown area?
So we do work cooperatively with all homeless service agencies in the community. That includes St. Francis House, Peaceful Paths, Family Promise. But Grace primarily targets our services to single adults, and that's what allows us to do what we do well, is specializing in unsheltered and sheltered single adults. And we don't worry about homeless families because our friends at Family Promise handle that, St. Francis House handles that. And their services, here's where that disconnect that I'm talking about is. The primary location where people gather downtown right now is around the fire station and Lynch Park. St. Francis House is a homeless services agency there, but they only provide services to the folks who are there for about 3 hours a day. That is the brunch meal that they do, and there may be some one-off case management, but there's no cohesive targeted services to these folks. That's back to that management of homelessness as opposed to delivering services that are targeting an end to homelessness.
But don't you think that's a great intersection point for you to be able to connect with them to get those people? I'm looking at this targeted team as maybe there's another approach, a funnel approach for this, whereas St. Francis House is a major draw for these people you're looking for. You found a lot of them, just as you just said, in that area. So I think there's more efficiency to be gained there in a partnership with St. Francis House, because everybody knows about St. Francis House and probably knows about Grace Marketplace, because word on the street gets among the homeless. So I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but the people that you're reaching out to, would you say they already know about Grace Marketplace? And so if they already know about it, is this more about intervention as opposed to awareness?
So I would wager to say that folks downtown are aware of Grace as they are St. Francis House, but at some point have made a decision not to seek services there. And for some people, as I said, it typically boils down to the people, the policies, and pests. People have concerns about bed bugs. People have concerns about if the policies at a shelter are really there to support them, or for example, if a shelter has high barriers to receiving services. So for example, at St. Francis House, you need to have a police clearance before you can receive services there. That would prevent some people from being able to go in and receive the services there. At the same time, it does not necessarily mean that that person would not be able to support and sustain their own housing with some support to get in there. Overall, we do work with St. Francis House on a number of projects, and in fact, we just submitted a grant application through that continuum of care that they are a part of as well.
Thank you. And one more. Oh,
there you go.
Oh, thank you. My last question is, so this is a pilot project as I understand it. So how do you plan on sustaining this project after, if our funding comes through, how do you plan to sustain this on an ongoing fashion?
Excellent question. So let me share some more information. We are seeking funding for this in a variety of scopes and sizes through a number of different places. So we are currently seeking funding through the state's, well, technically it's a federal emergency solutions COVID grant. We have put in some request through that. We also will be matching whatever the city might choose to make available with some private funding through the continuum of care for a person to specialize in getting people ready to move into housing through gathering documents and storing those appropriate documents. And this is a pilot project, you know, just like we were able to take on Dignity Village, a project that seemed unmanageable and completely intractable just a year ago. What we've seen is that with the right application and delivery of services, we can reduce the number of people in a place like Dignity Village by about 90% in less than a year. Looking at downtown, we would take the same approach, and using this as a pilot, what we believe is after the first year, when we were able to come back with the outcomes that we've presented, as well as monitoring the roster of people who are homeless in downtown, the community will see a clear value to sustaining this project.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation.
Thanks for your questions.
Member Seawright has her hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. DeCarmine, I did hear, I think you may have already answered it, but I just want to go, because you did say that you were going to, I was going to ask, were you aware of the Continuum of Care ESV funding, but you did say you are. So you said a portion, and I see that your request from us is $201,000. So that's not for the whole project. That's just the portion that you want us to pay for, or you want us to help fund. Is that correct?
That is correct. In fact, my agency, as recently as 2017, ran the Continuum of Care. We then handed it off to United Way so that we could focus more on being a direct service provider, but I am a member of the governance board of the Continuum of Care as well and collaborate frequently with them. This is a multi-pronged approach. Our request to the city at this point is $200,000. We have asked for additional support for more staffing, psychiatry, all the additional services through a number of other sources as well.
So if may is just because I'm curious, how much in total do you think this project would cost? Not just the portion that we have.
Well,
to me, and the reason why I asked that, I'm not really trying to get in your business all the way, but you, but I asked that because to me, $200,000 didn't seem like a lot of money for this. So that's why I'm asking. I'm glad to hear that you're looking at you splitting it up in different compartments and trying to request different funding from different agencies to do different things. So I was just wondering, in the broad scope of your project, how much are y'all looking at to put towards this project?
Off the top of my head, I can tell you that I submitted a $385,000 grant application today to support this project. I want to be really clear here. That money would supplement this money, or this money would supplement that money, but we could run it if one or both came through. So the difference is, are we providing 8 hours of service a day or 16 hours of service a day? Are we responding within 24 hours or within 12 hours? Often working with the commissions, we'll present an option that says, here's your good choice, here's your better choice, here's your best choice. Together, we will be looking at the better option, but either one on their own would be a good option.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had a point of information first regarding the motion, for Member Fox. My point of information is, I guess before hearing any information, we just made a motion without hearing all the facts about anything, and that's just a concern. Are we gonna do that?
Well, we've
Instead of
got
policy,
a
that's
motion
point of
and a
information?
second, and we're in discussion. So
Okay.
we're going through and we'll have all the
Okay.
discussion and we'll vote on the motion when it comes time.
What I think is unfortunate here, and this question is not gonna be so much for Mr. DeCarmine as it's gonna be for the manager, is this is the prime example of what we just heard. See, on this board, it's kind of like we play 3-card Monte. We play 3-card Monte because we want to have development in eastern part of our county to eliminate blight. When we had the interlocal agreement from the county about addressing urban blight and decay of what we're supposed to do, but yet we play 3-card Monte. We want to have something to fix the decay where it is, and really, but it comes back to the question of, we look at what GCRA function and what we're supposed to be doing, it comes down to, is it this? That's number one. Number two, all of us here, nobody wants to see anything when it comes to dealing with homelessness. All of us want to deal with it. Mr. DeCarmine brought up the thing about veterans. So I'm a veteran, Mr. DeCarmine, and I know plenty about that. You get monies or should be getting monies from the federal government in the form of a lot of things for veterans. Veterans should not be homeless, number one. Number two, that has been something that veterans have been addressed since President Obama. And there's, whether it be the VHA from the Veterans Health Organization or the VFA, you get plenty of different types of grants, whether it be SSVF, which is a type of a supportive grant. Can you hear me okay? With this mask on?
Slow down a little bit if you need to.
Can you hear me okay? So the SSVF grant is one type of grant that you should be receiving. That's a grant from the Department of Veteran Affairs. You also have HUD-VASH, which is still around, which is also what veterans get. And then I know that the county right now, the county even has, which is pushing for permanent housing. That's our dollars. The county arm of when we're dealing with this comes from the county. The county is all of our tax dollars for coming this. So the city's taking on a role, and this is where my angst comes in with what the manager's doing. And I feel like we can never address topics of what we need to do. And then I look like the jerk up here because I want to say, hey, well, what about, and we always talk about, we care about black and brown folks. Those poor and black brown folks can wait their turn because we always want to talk about it. Here's the interesting thing. If you look at this in totality, right? If you look at where everybody wants to drop off the homeless issue, it always gets dropped off in East Gainesville, where everything gets dropped off. When you go to West Side, there's no problem over there. The people that care about homelessness, they care about it because they put it over on the East Side where they don't have to see it. And so they put it over there because when you go to West Side, you're not going to see any homeless shelters. You're not going to see any grace marketplaces. Stop it. And we wonder why our community is the way they are on this side of town. Then this is what I'm talking about with the city manager. We are talking at both ends of our mouth. We want to solve one thing. This is not a reflection of Mr. DeCarmine. This is a reflection of whether government is really caring about black and brown people. And I want to talk to illicit bias and systemic racism coming from progressivism, where we care about issues, but then we keep people poor. And I'm just tired of it. And I'm on this board, it's just nonsense. And so that's why my angst with when I'm hearing Member Fox pushing for this motion, but not looking at it, and then we're going to be wondering, well, Mr. Manager, I wonder why we don't have this kind of development. This is exactly why. We're going to spend $200,000 for a grant to address something. Yes, the City Commission is pushing to address homelessness. They're addressing affordable housing. Not all black people are poor. And we push a poverty narrative, and it's a bunch of nonsense. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it because every time, and it's to people of color in here in this room, it is shameful. You'll be the main ones in here wondering in here, Mr. Manager, why are we not developing it? You just gave $200,000 to Mr. DeCarmine, and he will nickel and dime this budget just like he did when he was city manager in Fort Lauderdale. And this budget will go from $78 million to $30 million before you know it, and we're going to wonder why. So this is not a reflection of Mr. DeCarmine. Mr. DeCarmine is doing a job that, listen, like Mr. DeCarmine, I know what it is to be homeless, and I also know what it is to deal with homelessness. We must address it the right way, but it's not through the GCRA. It should be coming out of general budget. It should be coming out of the county arm. And Mr. DeCarmine, are you getting any funds from county government right now?
In fact, yes, sir. We have a wide variety of funding sources ranging from the city, the county, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and a number of other sources.
So is my statement about you getting funding for veterans accurate? And those
I wasn't clear on what your statement was about our funding for veterans.
Are you getting any kind of HUD-VASH grants, or are those veterans that come to your facility getting HUD-VASH grants to be able to find sustainable housing or some type of housing of any kind?
So HUD-VASH grants actually don't go directly to nonprofits in this community. They are allocated through the public housing authorities. And we do partner with them because we actually operate one of the highest performing veteran shelters in North Florida and South Georgia per the VA. And we work directly with them to place people into housing as quickly as possible. Yes, sir.
Understandable. So I guess for me, Mr. Chair, I'm just with the question of what the role of Mrs. Fox's motion is. We're going to spend $200,000. I'm just saying for us, we just talked interesting a minute ago. We were talking about a deficit of a project to bring economic development. I guess I want to get to the root of the problem because we're seeing a large portion, and some people went a long time too. Some people, we see on our side of town, the panhandling, and people want to criminalize people panhandling and people being hungry or homeless. And that's what I'm talking about. And you're seeing large portions, whether it be on 39th Avenue, you're seeing it on a large part of, go anywhere in the east side of our community, and you see panhandling, largely, heavily. And I guess to me, I'm just looking at it. I remember when, was it the Dignity Village, Mr. DeCarmine, was turned down or shut down? The thing that we talked about when Grace Marketplace, it was supposed to be a coordination, a cooperation between county government and city government. And I don't know where that cooperation went afoul, but it just seems like our neighbors across the street with county government have not really held up their end of the bargain. And it's kind of put the city in a position that's unfortunate, because while we want to address it, really it needs to come from there. And we have been the partnership from Member Fox is, we have been really good partners from the city, and if not so, and I think the manager, and maybe the manager can clarify better, has it been equitable funding, Mr. Chair, Mr. City Manager, from county government?
I've been trying to answer your question for the last couple of minutes.
Okay, get facetious all you want, but that's fine.
And I want to point out to the advisory board that the source of funds for this is the old downtown tip. This money cannot be spent outside of the old downtown boundaries. And so as we're looking at programs and opportunities for the old downtown TIF, okay, this seemed a logical choice to make. I do, and I have maintained that the city has a disproportionate share of the obligation for dealing with our houseless, vulnerable population, but the county has chosen not to step up. And my feeling is that we should not punish the houseless population who needs services because the county has not provided those dollars. We have a need in the community. We have funds that are available in the downtown TIF, and that is why I am proposing that we move forward. We're not taking $200,000 from East Side Development Opportunity here because we can't spend those funds over on the East Side.
Fair enough. Mr. Chair, I'll close with this. Mr. Manager, thank you for that clarity. So based on that, since county government is not being the good partner that they're supposed to be, and I do agree with you, Mr. Manager, that we should address that in the way we're addressing, unfortunately. So my question to you, Mr. Manager, is outside of this, when can we get to the meat and potatoes of what we need to do with big projects and economic development? That's my question to you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
I've still got several lights.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's 4 other questions, and I'm trying to move this on.
Please.
Mr. Manager, did you want to answer that, or?
We could be here hours talking about economic development. Let's stay on this agenda item.
All right.
And I think, as I told Mr. Grundy Gomez, I'm willing to meet with him as we talked about after the last meeting. So.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Dixon, you have your light on.
Thank you. I think the manager's comments were very helpful on this. I was going to initially just say I think this is a really incredibly important need. I think Grace has an amazing record of service, and we're real lucky to have them in this community. I also noted that staff highlighted guiding principle in the narrative that we got for kind of tying this back to our mission. But my question, I think, really is one for staff, and I would be interested in seeing sort of which strategic initiative these funding requests fall under. And I believe we adopted a budget, or at least a budget framework with some allocations for those pots of money, including what we just heard, those pots of money that belong to the old TIF structure. So I feel like we can vote this up or down, but I think in the future, I would like to get that information when we get a funding request, and I would like to kind of see this one and previous allocations that we have approved and that have gone forward, so we can kind of get that budget tracking and not lose sight of those things that, as Member Gomez says, are the kind of the big ideas we want to get to.
All right, let's see who's flashing number 3. Oh, there we go. I'd lose track of all this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is related to the timeline for this proposal. Reading through the materials, it looks like the outcomes would start October of 2021. Is that when the timeline that this proposal, if approved, that we would get those FTEs in the downtown area, providing that outreach?
Those timelines were built around an initial presentation to the General Policy Committee. We would be prepared at this point to get started in May of 2021. So May of this year, as we wind down the Dignity Village project, we would be able to transition at least 2 of the team directly into these roles to take on the tasks that are laid out in the project.
I think that's an important clarification, just because your comment that everybody, wants housing now, or is ready for housing now, to delay it for 8 months for an October 2021 start just seemed problematic. So good news that it could potentially start much earlier. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to, this question is for our staff. I assume account W266 is the pre-GCRA TIF balance for downtown district. I'd like to find out what is the total in W266. And Mr. DeCarmine talked about another grant application for $385,000 that's pending. If you want to reveal, I'm interested in what agency, state or federal department that application is coming from. Thank you.
I'd be happy to let you know. The application that we submitted today was for submission to the Department of Children and Families in terms of their allocation of federal ESG CV2 funds, the Emergency Solutions Grant second wave of coronavirus funding. And that was put in concert with a supplemental proposal that the Continuum of Care over at United Way itself submitted for additional staffing to support this.
Okay.
And the staff are balanced in W266.
They're looking it up. Are you able to look it up, Sarah or Trish? I don't hear anything.
I'm sorry, was there a question earlier too about which part of the strat plan this connected to? Did I hear that question being asked? Yeah, so I had to go get my cheat sheet, the book. Probably a few places, but I'll tell you the one that I think it most connects to is goal number 3, great place to live and experience. I won't read it all to you, but it starts out with increasing affordable housing opportunities, and it ends with number 6, eliminating chronic homelessness and reducing transitional homelessness by 50%, and it references the point of time, which we don't have the data for that yet. And then included in this section was developing a vibrant and alive downtown. So it probably touches on a few buckets. Equitable community would be another one, but I think it best fits under goal number 3, if that's helpful.
All right, let's go to that.
It's also designated as a high priority for the city commission.
I'd like to thank John and Grace for all the hard work they do out there, and it's really made a lot change in the city for the better. But I have a question for the city manager. If we're giving downtown TIF money, I've always understood that that money has to stay downtown. So these outreach workers, is it only for the downtown area?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, is that, Mr. Carmen, is that something like, that's the specific area you want to focus on in Gainesville?
At this point, that's a great question. At this point, it is. You know, what we know from the most recent point in time survey, we actually have a heat map that shows where people were located when we conducted these surveys. There are 40 or 50 people downtown regularly. And I'll tell you, and part of the politics of presenting this proposal, it makes more sense for us to start in a 10 square block area where you're going to see a visible impact over the year, instead of us, you know, making a 5% reduction in one corner of the city and a 5% reduction in the other. We're going to use this as proof of concept, then carry out into all other areas of the community.
Okay. I think I got Mr. Blunt's light on by accident. Okay.
Chair Pollard,
Yes.
I do have the answer to Mr. Blount's question about the funding W266. So that is the old Power District funds. Currently, there is a balance of $1.5 million.
Okay.
Member Dixon, point of information. Ms. Vidal, Member Dixon was asking about some of the things that we set as agenda items that we're talking about that we wanted to fund. Can we get, at the next meeting, can you put that as a list of what we discussed last year and what funding things that we wanted to fund? Because it would be good to come back as a check and point of where we stand as far as we stand. So we keep getting these funding requests, but is it following what we set as where we wanted to go as a roadmap, please?
Yes, we can. The short answer is yes. We're coming back next month with an item that will update everyone on kind of where we are and then any additional asks for funding. So that will be addressed, and I think it'll be a good kind of update for everyone, but also really looking at prioritization since the strategic plan and the action agenda came out, and we've discussed that kind of where everything is priority-wise. So that is scheduled for your meeting next month.
Okay, I don't see any more. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that, thank you, John, and all, and your staff for all the hard work that you do at Grace. My church and other organizations just support that as well. I think it would be good, like Member Dixon said, if you all, I know the funds, it says here, and I read this very carefully, that is paid from the Downtown Redevelopment Trust Fund, that $201,000, and that is the old Power District, I think the manager said. I think in preparing the statement or the narrative for us to look over, and I read this 3 or 4 times, it needs to be clearer where these dollars are coming from. As Member Gomez alluded to the fact that everything is in Southeast Gainesville, well, do we have any other place that we could put it at this time? And as far as homelessness and the panhandling, if you ride anywhere in Alachua County, even the small cities, you will see the same thing that you see in Gainesville, even in Alachua, and if you go out toward Archer Road and places like that, Newberry Road, we have the same problem all over in the entire city. So it's not just Southeast Gainesville. I think it's all over, and it upsets me because we live in Southeast Gainesville, so we probably see it more. But rest assured, if you ride west, you will see just as many panhandlers as you see in Southeast Gainesville. Thank you.
All right.
So I call the question if there's no more discussion on this motion.
I was gonna see if there's any public comment.
Okay.
Real quick.
Okay.
I I don't see any. Bring it back here. Any other comment here? All right, we have a motion to approve $201,010 from the Downtown Redevelopment Trust Fund out of account number W266 to fund the initiative for the downtown chronic homeless street outreach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign? It passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
It's me, Evelyn.
Yes, oh, sorry.
I would like to be excused at this time. As most of you know, I had a hip replacement, and it's not even 2 weeks old, and I think it's time for me to get home and take my medication and rest.
You
So
take care of your hip.
Please excuse me.
We'll see you next month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next item is Advisory Board Annual Report.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, so included in your backup is a draft of the annual report. It's almost the same as what you saw in November now, I believe. There were just a couple of comments added. This is the report that the City Commission.
I hate to interrupt you. Hang on just a minute. It looks like Mr. Gomez is having to leave as well.
Okay.
So we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're good.
We still have quorum. Okay.
We're good.
Okay,
I'm
great.
just checking. All right.
Okay, so we were granted an extension because we have been unable to meet and or reach quorum, so we do need quorum for this, but it's quick. So I just wanted everyone to take a look at the annual report, and if you have any comments, now would be a good time, or you can just go ahead and approve it as it's presented. And then there is also a part 2. We need a volunteer to present the report to the City Commission. The date has not been determined yet, but it would be in before October of this year.
Any comments or questions from the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's just these 4 sheets of paper?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so no wingdings and plants and seeds and comic books and stuff. I'm just.
We kept it simple.
I mean, you kept it real simple. Okay.
A little snarky there.
Yep, the commission, they just had some specific questions that they wanted the board members.
Oh, that's right, because ours goes as part of the cities now, right?
Yep, so this was asked as of all advisory boards.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you.
Ms. Dixon. Oh, sorry.
I would move approval, and I will add on that to request Vice Chair Seawright to present, if you're willing.
All right.
When is this?
Do I have a second quickly?
Oh.
And Member Mitchell has seconded. So we have a motion to approve the annual report, and Ms. Seawright will be, Vice Chair Seawright will be presenting to the commission.
All right, yes. And what day is that?
All in
It's
favor?
sometime.
Oh.
Opposed, same sign.
I didn't hear this. I was trying to have discussion.
You'll have plenty of time for discussion.
It'll be around your schedule.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Seawright.
Thank you, Ms. Seawright.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. All right. Next item is public comment. I don't see any public comment. No hands are up. Member comment.
We do have a hand up for a public comment.
Oh, how come I don't see it here?
It went up probably right after you looked away.
No, it's still not there.
Oh,
Maybe you've
okay,
got, you know what it is? You've got a different group of panelists, I think. Okay.
I do.
Public comment.
Okay, so I am allowing Ms. Silva to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate Tricia, sending you all a copy of a letter that about a dozen of us sent to Dr. Paul Brody, the president of Santa Fe, asking Santa Fe to invest some of the $40 million that Mackenzie Scott gave them with no strings attached to expand their construction trade training, scholarships, dual enrollment, apprenticeships, partnerships for on the east side for housing renovation. I'm one of several dozen people who've been very engaged in housing issues in the past several years, especially in Gainesville and especially on the east side. And it's this particular idea about expanding construction trades came basically from the NAACP's housing forum in July, I believe it was, when one of our local builders who's built hundreds of homes was talking about the extreme labor shortage. And that's what I've been hearing for years now all across the country, an extreme shortage of labor in construction trades. And this is, not only does Gainesville, as I won't go through all the whole letter because we've got, some information there about the peculiarities of Gainesville having a very high proportion of older homes built before 1980. And as you know, a lot of them are east of 13th Street. And a number of forces are working on making housing more readily demolished rather than rehabbed. And so as an economic development factor, we need more people who have the training and the skills to be able to rehab our houses, and not only houses, but also commercial buildings. And the renovation economy has, in Canada, for example, it outpaced the regular economy. And as you can see in the letter that we sent, there are a number of other advantages too to stimulating the renovation economy. And so we're not asking anything of the board except to consider it and look for possible, your suggestions and any support that any of you might want to give to us as we go forward to the Santa Fe board and ask them to expand these programs too. And it's in keeping too with focusing incentives on local, small scale enterprises, housing renovation and that kind of thing, rather than the huge outside money that's swirling around out there looking for a place to land. And so this is another aspect of it that the city is not paying attention to. Particularly Caper and the economic development people seem more attuned to promoting the opportunity zones, the huge tax breaks. And I would just like to point out that the Florida Housing Coalition, Blaise Denton in particular, has said that local governments need to get ahead of those things before they engulf entire neighborhoods like ours. I live in Pleasant Street and I've been here a long time, but he said that the opportunity zone projects, the return on investment is going out of the local area, and it's going to huge corporations and all of that, and that the opportunity zones are for low income areas, but not for low income people, and that they can quickly overwhelm neighborhoods. And so I would just ask for you as our representatives in economic development on our side of town to begin to look into that, maybe have some conversations or find out more about how government can steer the opportunity zone projects to be beneficial to the local economies and not just part of an extractive economy. So anyway, I don't really have any ask of you other than just to, if you would, give a few minutes to look over our letter and let us know if you have any suggestions or want to support us in any kind of way as we present this to Santa Fe. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Tufts, did you have a comment about her? Because I think Mrs. Dixon had a comment about something else. Yeah, so go ahead.
Ms. Silva, thank you for calling in. We just got the email during the meeting. I was able to scan
Yes,
through
I
it,
understand.
but- yeah, but I don't know, a lot of people probably didn't read it, but it was very compelling, and I think for spending time on it. If there's anything that we can do to help support this cause, it seems really, really awesome. So thank you for calling in, and I look forward to hearing more about this.
All right, thank you. And I apologize for not getting it to you before the meeting. I just sent it to you now. But anyway, I appreciate any help you can give. Thank you.
Thank you. Trish, do we have any more hands up? Doesn't look like it. Let's go to member comment then. Ms. Dixon.
All right, thanks. I'll be quick. I know everybody wants to go home. This is kind of something I was thinking about as I listened to the Crossplex presentation. I didn't bring it up then because it's sort of more of a brainstorming discussion than really a response to that presentation specifically. I wish Member Gomez was here because I'd like to hear his reaction. As I think about that site at 8th and Waldo, I'm very intrigued by the ideas about working with the school board and having a county football facility there that remains in East Gainesville and that is a partnership with the school. And I appreciate the comment about schools being important catalysts in the neighborhood. But as I listened to that presentation, I was thinking, so, sort of what's missing? What's the hook? What's new? And I just kind of brainstormed on what's missing in Gainesville area. And laugh if you want, my brain went to ice skating. And I thought, I did quick Google searches and I saw, okay, there's big ice skate complexes, and closest ones, Jacksonville, Daytona, Orlando, and Tampa. There's a couple that are big ice and sports complexes, the one in Jacksonville and one in Manatee County. They all have like hockey leagues and figure skating and public skating. Some of them also had flexible courts, so they also did indoor football. Some of them were set up. The one in Manatee County was announcing they're going to host Disney's Frozen on Ice, so they're set up for events. Some of them had, other fitness and athletics kind of things in that complex idea. I remembered that, I think it was about 30 years ago, I think the owners of Skate Station were flirting with the idea of doing an ice skate rink in Gainesville, and people got excited about that, and then nothing ever came of it. So I just was wondering if that sort of sparked any interest, and is that something Caper could look at as part of, if we're going to explore this sports complex idea, maybe something that would be new that you can't get anywhere else really in North Florida. Just a brainstorming, I just wanted to put it out there.
Put it out there. We'll sharpen our blades.
Feel good in about August, people will be
Yeah, we'll
flocking
feel
there.
good in August. Member Blount.
My comment is about general community safety. As far as I have observed, I'm the only nurse working frequently on the dedicated COVID unit who is Black and over 60. And I ride the bus to and from work and have noted that I am safer working in the COVID unit than I am on an RTS bus. There is a mask requirement, supposedly, that no one is enforcing, and it is actually a violation of public health guidelines for the bus to be moving. It should be standing still with the doors open as long as anyone over 2 years old does not have their nose and mouth covered. So I will ask the help of any member who has ongoing contact with city commission members to urge them to act on this. And I've advised them on this for the last couple of months, and they're not taking action. So I'm just asking for the help of anybody here to push them to turn these buses from rolling incubators into safe rides. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blount. Any other member comment? I don't see any. So our next meeting is March 16th, and I'm assuming it'll be back in here.
That's correct.
Without objection, we will adjourn.
Thank you, everyone.